Welcome back to class. What we were able to do in our previous class was we were able to enter bills, right? And I also show you how to track your bills, due dates, and manage account payables, right? Next, we are going to be looking at how to print, how to print checks, and how to record cash expenses. That is what we're going to be doing next. But for now, let's look at how to pay those bills. Now, it is very, very important for you to also know that when it comes to making payments in QuickBooks and recording payments in QuickBooks, it is also very important to know the options you're going to use. You don't just say because you're making payment, you just go ahead and say pay bills. No, if you're doing cash expense, you don't use the pay bills option. If you're paying your vendors, you don't use except. Is there an exception? I don't think there's an exception when it comes to vendors. So vendors have to follow the same the normal process of entering the bill and making the paying the bill. Use a shortcut when it comes to paying vendors, like vendors, but like all these one-time expenses, admin expenses that you just write off and immediately you can do that. But this QuickBooks has to track the receipt of the inventory and the payment of such inventory. So that is, you just have to follow the flow of things like this. So I'm going to show you how to make payments against an invoice. So to track your expense, to track your bills, due deals, I have shown you. I say you can use your vendors menu here and say bills tracker. Click on bills tracker. You see all your due bills here, all the bills that are due for you to pay. So you can see you can make the payment right from here. You can click pay bills. You can click pay bills. It will still give you the same option. You can see pay bills and you make that payment, right? You make that payment. So let's go back and see. Let's go back. Let me show you something. So you can choose you can choose to click here too. You can choose to click here. So it will still give you the same option. So which of the bills are you paying? Let's say this is bills due on or before. So let's just click. I like using that one. But you can choose to say show all bills at once. But me, I like to leave it on default. I like to choose this one so that I can have this thing to select the dates. So in case you have many invoices and many bills to pay and you don't want to see all the bills, you just want to see the bills that are due. You just want to see the bills that are due, and you can now filter it according to that. But because all these items were created the same day and we have this, you can just go ahead and say, okay, let me just click this and say once you do that, once you check that, you see that this is it. Let's say you don't want to pay the whole thing. If you don't want to pay the whole thing, it's the same process, just like when I showed you how to make payment against an invoice. So if you're not paying everything at once, let's say you're paying 320 100, right? Let's say that is what you are paying for the moment. So you can see that we will still have balance. And let's say here on this one too, you're paying, let's say you're paying 150 here, right? Let's say you're paying 150 here. Let's say you're paying 150 here. So you can select, you can put the amount you want to pay, because we don't pay our vendors completely, except where you have the money or you are finished selling the product. You can pay your vendors completely. All right, so when you are done with that, you will come back here and select the date of the payment. The date of the payment is 7th. Yes, we go ahead and click 7. Now, method of payment, you click check. You can use check or whatever means you want to use. So once you do that, assign check number, you select the account. Let's say we are paying from Zenith now. So when you do that, this option will still come out and you click OK. So when you click OK, now look at something. If you look at the ending balance for this account is negative, that means there's no money in that account, right? There is no money in that account, but we can still go ahead and make that payment, right? No problem. So once you do that, you have to check the money in that account is just it has negative 152 1,000 there. So you can just go ahead and click pay selected bills. So click pay selected bills, and you have this option to say, okay, earlier on we have 1113, now we have 1114, we have this, we have 0005. So right, just click OK. So once you do that, your bills has been paid, and come to bill tracker again, you can see that paid bills, this is what you paid. These are the paid bills. These are the unpaid bills. That means you still have an outstanding balance on this bill. So open balance for here is 100, this is 75. So that those are the bills that are, those are the amounts that are still remaining for you to pay. All right, so we have seen how to make payment against an invoice, right? How to make pay bills against and how to pay bills. Now let me explain something before we move to the next section. Bills payments using these commands are for only outstanding bills you have to pay your vendors. And who are your vendors? Vendors are people that supply products to you. You receive them as an inventory item. So you are paying them for those products. You cannot use pay bill to record any other transaction. Of course, it's not even going to give you the option to record any other transaction if it is not a transaction that has an open bill already. If the transaction doesn't have an open bill, you can't use pay bills to record that transaction. I will teach you how to record cash expense or how to record your admin expense in QuickBooks. So that is a different option altogether. So we are not going to be using pay bills options to make such payment. So you're going to be using what is called write check. If you're using QuickBooks Online, you will see expense. Yeah, in QuickBooks Online, you will see expense. But in this place, in QuickBooks Desktop, what you'll be seeing is write check. So write check is the one we use to record all expense, admin expense, and other expense that doesn't have to do with bills, like tracking of bills. No, those are the expense like transportation costs and admin expenses, purchase of stationaries and other things. This is what we are going to be using to record that. So that is a topic for another section. We are going to be, let me just clarify you on this bills payment. So we were able to look at how to raise purchase order. We receive inventory against our purchase order, and we also receive inventory without bill, right? Without bills, and we make payment. We converted inventory we receive without bill into a bill, and we now see how to make those payments. So this and this is basically like a kind of the same thing, but let me just show you. If you click on it again, do you have any bills? I don't think we have any open purchase order or any open bill. So enter bill. Let's say okay, you just receive an invoice, and or it may not be an invoice for this, or it can just be any kind of bill. Let's say you have an engineer who came to your office and they did something for you, right? You have an engineer who came to your office and did something for you, and that engineer needs to be paid. But because it is not within the power of the person in charge to make that payment immediately, so the person will have to start tracking the payment for that services. Let's say the name of the engineer. So we're going to add a new engineer. Let's say the name of the engineer is Banks Engineering. I don't know whether I'm spelling it correct. Anyhow, Banks Engineering, that's the name of the engineer. So Banks Engineering, that is service for us, a kind of engineering service or repairs. So we want to track that payment. Because we are not paying immediately. It's not within your luxury as an accountant to make the payment until it is approved. But you have to track that transaction. So bank have given you his bill. He have told you what he has told you that okay, this is my payment, this is how much you're going to pay me. So what you will do is when you open, let me just clear this, let me go back. So what you will do to start tracking that bill, because it is not an inventory item, it is just a bill you want to track on pending when the payment is going to be made. So you just click enter bill. So you now select. So when you click enter bill, there are two options here. This is for items, that is inventory, and this is for expenses. So that is expense, right? So when you do that, you select banks, the name of the vendor is still a vendor because he rendered service to you. So the date, you now select the date, you now put a reference number, you put the amount due for you to pay. Let's say the amount due for us to pay is 20,000. So what account now, when you put that amount, what account is that going to? How do you track that? Let's say repairs and maintenance. So this is repairs and maintenance. So you see, now you can see, say repair of what? Repair of let's say ACs, right? Let's see, this is what the person came and did for us in the office. So repair of ACs. So the very moment once you do that, the very moment you enter this now, it becomes a bill because you have not paid for it. It becomes a bill. So if you enter it and save, it will start tracking it as a bill. Remember, it is not, that means it is not only vendors that you can track their bills. You can track service bill, you can track any other bill that you have not paid immediately. So it must not be an inventory item, but it can also enter a bill you want to track, a payment that is pending that you want to track. You can use this option to pay that. So this inventory receive and this conversion of this is for inventory receive, right? This is for inventory receive, and this is for converting inventory receive without an invoice earlier on. So you convert it to a bill so that you can be able to make that payment. Now, while this now is for bills, just to enter an ordinary bill where there's a pending obligation to make payment to a particular vendor, right? A pending obligation to make payment to that vendor, or for the services render, or for whatever obligations or services the person rendered to the organization. So that is how to enter it. So it must not be inventory before you track. But again, what if it is if you cannot use this to say you are tracking or expense? What if it is a cash expense? So that is what we are going to be looking at in the next video, and see you in class.